Episode 1. This is not your rise. This is your reveal. It may look like you're rising. More eyes, more rooms, more favor, more weight in every step. It may feel like something new is happening. But love, this isn't new. This isn't your rise. This is your reveal. You are not becoming what you've never been. You are stepping into what you've always carried. The glory, the grace, the grounded fire that refused to die, even when no one was watching. They'll say you came out of nowhere. They'll say it happened overnight. But heaven knows this has been in motion for years. You were shaped in the shadows, refined in the silence, built in the breaking. And now you're simply being seen. This is not promotion. This is position. This is not the beginning. This is permission to walk in the fullness of what God already whispered over you. When no one else was listening, you need the stage. To be chosen, you need the spotlight. To be marked, you were already crowned. When you chose healing, over hiding, obedience, over applause, truth, over trend, this moment is not random. It's recognition, not of what you've gained, but of what you guarded. When no one was clapping, you are not rising. You are remembering. You are not debuting. You are emerging from the wilderness, from the pressing, from the sacred ache of becoming. And what's wild, it was never really about you. Your reveal is a signal, a mirror, a divine announcement that reminds others. Yes, you can survive. Yes, you can rebuild. Yes, you can shine without shame. This is the moment when everything in you aligns. Your voice, your pace, your name, your knowing, and the world won't be able to explain it, but they will feel it. They'll feel the weight, the oil, the evidence that something holy is moving in the earth again, and it's wearing your face. You are not rising to be worshipped. You are rising to lift others. You are not arriving at glory. You are revealing the glory that's been growing quietly inside you this whole time. So don't shrink. Don't second guess. Don't apologize for being exactly who he called. This is not pride. This is prophecy walking. You don't need to introduce yourself anymore. Let the reveal speak for you. Let your walk say, I've been with God, and now it's time. Episode 2. This season is not about being seen. It's about being recognized. You've been seen before. Eyes on you. Compliments tossed like coins. Invitations, praise, applause. But something always felt shallow, incomplete, not quite aligned with who you really are. Because deep down, you weren't looking to be seen. You were waiting to be recognized. Recognition is different. It comes from the soul. It doesn't flatter. It remembers. It says, I know what you carry. I know what you've paid for. I know the fire behind your stillness. Being seen notices your glow. Being recognized honors your oil. Being seen watches your gift. Being recognized feels your weight. In past seasons, you were visible, but misread. They liked your light, but not your truth. They loved your bloom, but not your roots. They praised the sound, but never discerned the source. So you stayed quiet, not out of fear, but out of protection. You knew what was on your life was too sacred to be consumed by shallow curiosity. But now the tables are turning. This is not a season for attention. This is a season for alignment. You don't need more eyes. You need the right ones. Eyes that carry depth. Eyes that can see the mantle, not just the image. Eyes that say, she's not just impressive. She's appointed. You don't want to be celebrated for what isn't yours. You want to be recognized for what heaven placed inside you before you had language for it. And love, it's already happening. You're walking into rooms that feel different. The atmosphere adjusts when you enter, not because of your outfit, but because of your assignment. Those who once overlooked you will wonder why their peace leaves. When you do, those who once misunderstood you will sit quietly in the presence they can no longer deny, because you don't need to introduce yourself when God already did. You don't need to network when heaven is whispering your name into the right ears. You don't need to perform when your posture alone reveals the throne you were sent from. This is not about marketing. This is about marking. This is not about platform. This is about prophetic placement. This is not about fame. This is about fulfillment. You will know the difference because when you're being seen, they'll clap for the image. But when you're being recognized, they'll rise to honor what you carry. Let the shallow pass by. Let the wrong room stay closed. You were never meant to be on display. You were meant to be divinely perceived. So walk gently, not begging, not loud, not seeking eyes. Because the ones who are sent to you won't just look. They'll know. Episode 3. The rise was never about you. It was always about who you'll lift. You thought this rise was about you. And in some ways, it is. It's your healing, your voice, your moment to walk freely, without shame clinging to your ankles. But deeper still, this was never just about your crown. It was always about your reach. You didn't climb for applause. You climbed so others would believe. There was a way out, too. You didn't rise to stand taller. You rose to extend your hand. Because the truth is, there are people watching you now who don't care about your shine. They care about your path. They don't need your highlight reel. They need your process. They don't need your perfection. They need your presence. That says, if I made it here, you can too. This rise is not a stage. It's a staircase. And every level you ascend becomes a landing place for someone still crawling through their darkness. The authority you carry now, it's not for domination. It's for demonstration. To show what grace can do through someone who never stopped choosing to get back up. You were entrusted with influence, not to build a kingdom around your name, but to open doors and hand over the keys. Because elevation without compassion is empty, and visibility without humility is vanity. But when your rise becomes a rescue, that's legacy. There are people whose breakthrough is attached to your obedience. People who don't need a leader, they need a ladder. And that's what you are now. Every wound you've turned into wisdom, every valley you've turned into a voice, is shaping the very bridge someone else will walk across. This isn't about spotlight. This is about stewardship. It's about what you'll do with the light that's finally shining on you. Will you absorb it or reflect it? Will you wear the crown or become the crown for someone else to be reminded of what royalty really feels like? You were not chosen just to be seen. You were chosen to be followed, to walk ahead, not in arrogance, but in awareness that every step you take is clearing ground for someone who couldn't make it this far on their own. You are not the destination. You are the signpost. And when they arrive, they won't thank you for shining. They'll thank you for seeing them in their wilderness and not leaving them behind. So rise, love, but rise ready, rise with room, rise with one hand extended back toward the shadows. You once called home because your rising is someone else's rescue map. And that has always been the point. Episode 4. You are no longer waiting for the moment. You are the moment. For so long, you waited for a sign, waited for permission, waited for the right words, the right time, the right feeling to tell you it was safe to begin. You prayed for alignment. You whispered, God, when is it my turn? You watched others move, watched them rise, watched them speak and build and become, and still you waited. But love, what if I told you, you are no longer waiting for the moment? Because now you are the moment. You are the alignment someone else has been praying for. You are the sign someone else will recognize as their green light. You are the open door that heaven is walking through. The shift you've been sensing, it's not around you. It's within you. It's not about something coming. It's about something waking up. The timeline didn't change. You did. And that changes everything. You're no longer the one looking to be called on. You become the one Who carries the call? This is what it feels like to be activated, to realize that all along, you are not preparing for a stage. You are the stage where divine timing unfolds. You don't need to be discovered. You are the discovery. You don't need to chase destiny. You embody it now. You don't need a spotlight to begin, because when you enter the room responds. Yes, the moment has come, not because it arrived, but because you did. You stepped out of your own way. You unclenched the waiting. You stopped asking for the next instruction and started walking as the instruction itself. You are not waiting for impact. You are the impact. You are not waiting for the shift. Your breath is the shift. You are not asking for the door. You are the threshold people cross and find themselves transformed. There will be those who ask, when did this happen for you? And the answer is simple. It didn't happen. I became it. You are not here to chase a moment. You are here to release one. Every word you speak, every space you enter, every choice you make, ripples with the power of right timing, because you have chosen to own your presence. So stop stalling. Stop scanning the horizon. Stop waiting for the lightning bolt. You are the strike. You are the confirmation. You are the atmosphere shift. You are the moment that breaks the cycle and births something eternal. And when you walk forward now, you don't just arrive. You announce without saying a word. You declare, the moment is here because I'm here. And I'm not shrinking back. Episode 5, they'll call it sudden, but you know it was sacred. They'll look at your life and call it a breakthrough. They'll say, wow, it happened so fast. Overnight success. Where did she even come from? They'll marvel at the moment, the doors opening, the voice rising, the favor flooding in like a wave. But you'll smile quietly because you know the truth. This wasn't sudden. This was sacred. You were planted in pain, watered in silence, crushed in seasons. No one saw. And what's blooming now, it was always becoming. They don't see the years. You said yes with no reward. The nights you sowed with tears and still woke up speaking light. They don't know how many times you stayed, not because it was easy, but because it was right. They don't know that your breakthrough didn't begin today. It began the moment you refused to curse the ground. That buried you. So let them call it sudden. Let them be surprised. But you know, this is the harvest from 1,000 secret seeds no one clapped for. This is the sound of heaven, keeping its promise. You weren't just waiting. You were preparing. You weren't hiding. You were honoring the weight of what you carry now. And when it finally came time to rise, you didn't rush. You recognized it, because sacred things don't shout. They settle. They take root, quietly, deeply, until the surface can no longer hold them in. You've outgrown obscurity, not because you needed fame, but because the assignment grew too loud to keep behind the veil. This is not a spotlight. It's a release. This is not luck. It's legacy. This is not sudden. It's the sacred timeline, finally catching up to your consistency. So when they ask, how did it happen? You'll say, it didn't. It was always happening. I just never stopped showing up. When no one was watching, let them call it sudden. You don't need to explain the fire. To those who never felt the ashes, you don't owe a timeline. To those who weren't there in the wilderness, because God saw, God counted, God timed it all. To the breath, this rise isn't your reward. It's your reveal. And everything about you now is living proof. That sacred doesn't mean slow. It means sovereign. So stand tall, not with pride, but with memory. Because this moment isn't magic. It's matured prophecy. And it's right. On time. Episode 6. This isn't success. This is obedience showing its fruit. They'll call it success. They'll point to the open doors, the favor, the increase, the new weight in your voice, the new presence in your walk. They'll say, she made it. She did it. She's winning now. And yes, You are walking in something new. Yes, it looks like victory. But deep down, you know better. This isn't success. This is obedience. Bearing fruit. You didn't get here because of hustle. You got here because you listened. You didn't climb your way up. You knelt your way forward. You didn't scheme. You surrendered. And every open door wasn't the result of a pitch. It was the echo of a whispered yes. In a dark room, when no one was looking. This isn't what the world calls success. This is what heaven calls alignment. Because true success isn't measured by stage size, or income, or blue check marks. True success is when your outer life finally starts to mirror your inner obedience. You walked when it was uncomfortable. You gave when you didn't have enough. You stayed when others left. You believed when the evidence said you were foolish. You laid the bricks with tears. You watered them with silence. You waited not because you liked the stillness, but because you trusted the sender. And now, the fruit is growing, not because you worked for it, but because you honor the root. They'll ask for your strategy. You'll smile because your strategy wasn't 5 steps or a blueprint. It was obey when it's quiet, stay when it's uncomfortable, move when heaven whispers, don't flinch when nothing claps. You're not reaping because you're lucky. You're reaping because you trusted the process. When no one clapped, when no one called, when the soil felt dry, and your hands felt tired. Now the fruit is here, and it tastes like faithfulness. It smells like heaven. It carries a flavor of every night you almost gave up, but didn't. This isn't success, love. This is the sound of seeds, singing back to their sower. Let the world call it what they want. You don't need the labels, because you know this is what obedience looks like when it finally grows too big to stay hidden underground. And when they praise your fruit, you'll point back to the soil, because what's showing now is only the echo of what was buried in silence, in sacrifice, in yes. Episode 7, you're not rising to impress. You're rising to remind. It might look like glory to others. This season seems like your reward, like favor finally found you, like the crown was always meant for your head. And yes, there's glory, but not the kind that shines for attention. It's the kind that echoes. You didn't rise to be admired. You rose to remind the weary that the wilderness doesn't last forever, to remind the silent that their voice still has power, to remind the forgotten that heaven never let go. Your rising isn't a performance. It's a mirror. It's the sound of someone watching you and whispering, if she came back from that, maybe I can too. You didn't get here to be placed on a pedestal. You got here to pull others out. You carry memory now, not just your own, but collective, ancient, holy memory. The memory of what's real, the memory of what's theirs, before trauma, before labels, before fear shrunk them down to fit places. They were never meant to remain. Your light isn't just light. It's recognition. It speaks without words. You haven't lost it. You just forgotten. Let me remind you. So when they look at you and see beauty, they'll see their own starting to resurface. When they hear your truth, the parts of themselves they silenced will start to hum again. You are a living reminder that healing is possible, that being chosen doesn't always look glamorous, and that the anointing can rest on trembling hands. You don't need to impress, because the ones you're called to aren't looking for something shiny. They're looking for something true. And truth doesn't need to dazzle. It just needs to stand. You are rising, not like a firework, but like the morning. Quiet, unapologetic, unstoppable, and everything you touch starts to wake up. So no, this isn't your moment to be worshipped. This is your moment to remember others back into themselves, to walk into a room and realign the air just by being whole, to leave an imprint that doesn't say, look at me, but instead whispers, come home to you. You're not here to be liked. You're here to be felt. You're not rising to stand out. You're rising to call others in. You're not rising to impress. You're rising to remind. And that is holy. Episode 8. This rise wasn't given to you. It was drawn out of you. They'll say you were chosen, that you were handed this season. That favor fell on you like rain and lifted you like wind. But the truth, this rise wasn't given to you. It was drawn out of you. It didn't come from applause. It came from agony. It wasn't the fruit of being seen. It was a product of what you did when no one saw. This is not a gift. It's a growth, born from pressure, shaped by persistence, crushed, refined, and resurrected. From every place you should have stayed buried, but didn't. No one crowned you. You birthed this, in silence, in surrender, in secret battles. Only you and God witnessed. They'll see your rise and assume arrival. But you'll remember, this wasn't magic. This was midnight obedience. This was tear-soaked ground. This was saying, yes, even when your hands were shaking and your heart was tired. You didn't find this level. You became it, step by step, layer by layer, one broken piece at a time, turning into something unshakable. And now, the light they see, it's not spotlight. It's the radiance of what happens when you choose not to die with what was meant to live through you. You were never waiting for someone to open the door. The door was inside you. And this moment, it's not a handout. It's not favor falling from the sky. It's the manifestation of who you decided to be when everything in you screamed to give up. This rise was never external. It was inevitable. It didn't happen to you. It happened because of you, because you dug deep when the surface gave you nothing, because you held on when hope got quiet, because you built when nothing around you looked like promise. So don't let the world tell the story wrong. Don't shrink when they say, wow, you got lucky. Let them say what they will. But you know, I didn't receive this. I released this. What they see now is just the overflow of everything you chose. When no one was clapping, this rise was pulled from the dirt, pulled from the ache, pulled from the deep waters where most would have drowned. And you emerged, not because you were handed a throne, but because you became the ground where heaven could land. And now the world watches, thinking they're witnessing your beginning. But this is just a part. You couldn't hide anymore. Episode 9. You're not just walking in your power. You're walking in your proof. There's something different about the way you move now. It's not louder. It's not flashier, but it's undeniable. There's weight in your steps, not because you're trying to be seen, but because you finally know you were never meant to be hidden. You used to walk like you were hoping no one would notice. Now you walk like even silence is watching. But this isn't arrogance. It's arrival, because you're not just walking in your power anymore. You're walking in your proof. Every breath is a statement. I'm still here. It didn't break me. This strength isn't imagined. It was earned. You don't need to explain your story. You are the story. You don't need to preach resilience. You walk in rooms, and the atmosphere knows that one's been through the fire. And she didn't come out smelling like smoke. She came out with a flame. You become the proof that the pit was never the end. That betrayal didn't erase your worth. That delay wasn't denial. It was development. You don't quote survival anymore. You embody it. And it's not just your eyes that shine. It's the space around you that starts remembering what light feels like when you walk in. This isn't confidence. It's clarity. This isn't performance. It's presence. This isn't about showing them who you are. It's about showing up as who you become. You used to hope for the day when you'd feel strong. Now, strength doesn't feel like force. It feels like familiarity, like coming home to the version of yourself you always hoped was real. And the world, it will feel it, not just in what you say, but in what you carry, in the way you look at someone, and their shame starts to shake, in the way you pause, and the room softens, not because you're trying to be powerful, but because you become undeniable. You're no longer trying to prove a point. You are the point. You're no longer chasing healing. You are the evidence that healing holds. So when they ask, how are you so grounded? You'll say, because I lost everything and still found myself. Because I was emptied and discovered I was never hollow. Because I didn't just survive, I became. You're not just walking in your power, love. You're walking in your proof. And every step says to the world, this is what grace looks like when it chooses to stand. Episode 10. This isn't the end of the climb. It's the beginning of your clarity. You've made it to a place you once only dreamed about. The air is different here. Still, sacred, it holds your name without echoing it. And for a moment, you think, maybe this is the end of the climb. But love, this isn't the end. This is the beginning of your clarity. You didn't ascend just to rest. You ascended so you could see what was never visible. In the valley, see what your pain once blocked. See the fullness of what your life now carries. And more than that, you can finally see them. The ones still climbing, still gasping for breath, still doubting if the mountain is worth it. You see their shadows where you once stood. Their questions wrapped in the same fear you once thought would swallow you. And now, you're not just a survivor. You're a seer. From this place, you no longer look at the path as something that punished you. You see it for what it was, a purification, a preparation, a pathway not just for you, but for those who will follow. You're not here to plant your flag. You're here to become a signal fire, not to claim territory, but to light up direction. Because from this height, you realize what looked like isolation was really elevation, and what felt like delay was really design. Clarity isn't just vision, it's responsibility. Now that you can see, what will you do with what you know? Now that you understand, who will you go back for? You didn't climb to escape. You climbed to remember who you are, to remember why you're here, to remember that the view isn't your reward. It's your revelation. And that revelation says, you are ready, not to settle, but to lead, not to stand still, but to stretch your hand and pull someone else into the light. This clarity is not the end. It's the call to begin again, but this time from a place of fullness, from a place where you no longer ask, am I enough? Because now you know, I've seen what I carry, and I will not carry it in silence. So take a breath, take in a view, then fix your eyes on the next ascent, not for yourself, but for the souls still searching, for proof that the climb is worth it. This is not the end. This is the awakening. The moment where purpose meets perspective. The moment where rising becomes returning. Not to go backward, but to lead forward with fire in your eyes and clarity in your voice.